As a Blazers, we're going to bring you specifications you can relate to so you can have an educated decision on your purchases. And if that's something that you're looking for, consider subscribing to the channel as well. We're going to be starting off with something that was extremely awesome. If you go back to the previous video, there's a live stream for that. So if you didn't watch that side, so there's a group of people that I need to thank for that, and hopefully I don't leave anybody out. But you have JT's Knife Life and Stasa23 that headed up the whole thing. Then we had Banter 24/7, Zach Stuff, Slicey Dicey, EDC Gear Reviews, Shortcut Reviews, Zelric, Eugene Kwan, Blade Centered, Metal Effort, Big Red EDC, Grateful Panic, Jack Farmboy, and Love Them Knives. So big grouping of folks. Hopefully I didn't leave anybody out. If you did, leave in the comment down below as well, and I'll try and change that as well. But the thing that I'm still kind of taking in was, move this a little bit for now, was this. Yes. So that is a Sebenza 21 inlay, which they gifted to me. So there's a lot of work that goes into behind the scenes things, and they just appreciated it. And yep, and I have this knife. This was my grill knife that I would be getting at some point, and mark it off the list. It is part of the collection now. So that is the Sebenza 21. So thanks again to those folks. Couldn't say enough about that, but just do appreciate that ever so much. And that's going to be something that I'll pass down to my kids so they can go and fight over that. But we'll get into this one here for this knife. So one of the folks that I mentioned before for Zelric 42, so he's now with his brother for Todd Knife and Tool. This is the knife here from We. So this is their first one, production one coming out. They have another one coming out from Best Tech. And of course, they'll probably have some other ones coming out later on as well. But this one is the Roxi. So it's a fairly decent sized knife, good in hand. And then one of the finger choil, I mean, this is one that I don't worry about getting too close to the blade, just how this is kind of lined up and kind of how it's boxed off on that end. So I do appreciate that ever so much for a knife. Because some of the ones that are pretty close to a finger choil, you could, I just don't like getting too close to it because I think I'm going to cut myself. So that's kind of the things for that. So this one was running on M390. So as far as corrosion resistance, that's going to be about 75th percentile. For hardness, about 70th percentile. And then for retention or edge retention, that's going to be up in the 80th. But that's going up against like super steels and just crazy metals. But again, you do have a lot of different things going on. So if you have a horrible heat treat, you could have the best steel and have a horrible knife. So stick with folks that are reputable. Check out the steel testing in the description down below. So that list is getting larger as we go. So do appreciate all the folks that are participating in that. And we'll throw in some of the comparisons here. So this is one that was a 500 run for CRKT for the squid. And we have the Delica. Then we got the P large or Pilar in large. And then we do have this one here for the Tough Light. So these I think are pretty similar to each other. I do like the Tough Light for the knife. So that's something that is kind of that comparison to, because it's very comfortable in hand. It's still a one-hand operation for this knife here. I don't want to smack the other knife, but still one-hand operation for it, but very nice for that. So looking at the hand sizing for it, so we'll look at the adult female hand first, and then we'll go over to the adult male's hand as far as that comparison. So you're going to look at that and print that out, and so you can actually see what that is, so you can actually have that at home, see how that's going to fit in your hand comparison, and kind of go from there. For this one, we're going to go to the alignment pull gauge for it to see where it is as far as a pull rating. So we're going to use the alignment pull gauge for this. And something pretty cool, over at Millet, they went in actually had a pull test for the the morphine karambit. So that one actually was pretty cool to actually kind of be on the inside track on that whole deal. But that was a kind of an interesting thing to see. So we're going to do this one. It's going to be in grams. So about 2 to 3 pounds is normally a pretty good one as far as a pull. So if we can see if we can get a pretty accurate reading on this for the knife here. Actually, we don't want grams, so we'll change that over at the end of it. And that one was my hand in the way. So we'll try that one more time. Get my hand out of the way. Technical difficulties. So do that one more time here. So this is going to be almost 4 pounds for that. So that one is now one that has a pretty good as far as the flipping action for it. So this one does rocket out for it, for the blade. And then it does have a very high flipper tab. So it's not really right along with that pivot. So a lot of them have the flipper tab in line with the pivot. This one is a little bit higher. So you cannot do the push button for that. You're going to be doing the light switch for this type of deployment. And then you're also going to have basically the slow roll open, and then you can do the thumb flick, but it's kind of a little awkward, possibly. Yeah. So thumb, and middle for that. So there's going to be a few different ways to do those as far as deployment side. Currently, this is one for 242. And then that is through Blade HQ, so you can get it elsewhere as well. And then you can also get that as far as MSRP for this one is 285. So this one is a Warncliffe type of blade, and then it has a flat grind for it. So that's going to be now starting with that comparison. Then we'll go over to so the action we went through. Very smooth action for it as far as the blade goes. And so it does rock it out quite well. I mean, it's very much something that has authority to it as far as that opening. The only thing about it, so with that almost 4 pounds of pull, some of the flipper tab is a little bit, I think, a little bit more aggressive than necessary. So we're trying to get a little bit closer on this one. But so that's the jimping on that tab, and then the jimping on the actual blade too. So when you're burying into that, you're going to notice that. So if you're going to have gloved hands, it's going to be fantastic for that. But if you do not, then you're going to might be noticing that a little bit more in the little work that you're doing. I don't use my knives on a really heavy basis, but that's going to be kind of the thing for that as far as being able to notice that. Sorry, the focus is a little bit off there. So for this one, so that's the specification of that. And then we do have the edge under the microscope, so you can take a look at that as well. So this one is a single carry as far as it goes. It's going to be the right hand tip up. And regarding that, there's a few different things on this that are kind of, I would say, kind of revolutionary as far as things go. So that's going to be the actual pocket clip. So initially the design of it was kind of just interesting. I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting way to do the pocket clip. But when you're actually taking it out of your pocket, these little notches actually work pretty well. So as you're grabbing it, then you actually have a place for your finger to actually get some grip on it to take it out of your pocket. So these little cutouts are actually really good. So I do appreciate that quite a bit, and it actually makes a lot of sense. The actual detent on the clip, I think, could be lightened up just a little bit for in and out of the pocket. So in a seated position, so if I'm in my car, fidgeting with the knife, to put it back in my pocket, it's hard to do that now one-handed with the pocket clip for this knife. So this one goes, it's about 2.6 inches and a 3.7 for the handle for this knife here. And then the weight of it is going to be basically about the weight of a applesauce. So this little single serve applesauce is pretty much what this is going to weigh here. This is, I think, about 0.3 ounces more, but kind of get an idea for that itself. And then for the other things with it, it's a really good knife overall. And then we'll throw in some of the specifications as well. So for the sharpness test, we'll run that. I will have that included here as well. I forgot to put that down, so I'll insert that here into the video for that sharpness testing for this one. But it is a pass-around knife, so very much thank you to We for providing it for the pass-around group. So behind the edge, I got 25 thousandths with this gauge here. And then for the actual sharpness for the blade, initially it was 419, which is kind of into kind of the moderately rolled. So this is a pass-around knife, so some of the use may have gotten to it. So I did run it over some steels real quick. So I got down to 339. So that's in the new high-end cutlery edge for this knife here. So buy, borrow, or avoid for this knife here. I would say it would be a buy and then on the verge of borrowed. So it depends on if you like this size, if this is something that works for you. If this size doesn't work for you, they're going to have some other designs coming out. So just kind of stay tuned to that whole thing. Yeah, pretty well set up. So nice action, nice design for it. The only other thing as far as kind of this more sharp look to it, also for this edge, so at least in my hand, when actually handling it, it actually kind of digs in a little bit in this part of my finger here, in my palm there, and holding it here. So that's something that's probably just the sizing of it. So if it was a little bit longer, I wouldn't have that type of contact with that handle. But nice job. Good job, folks. So that's one thing that's really hard about it. So when you know the person that was part of the design, you just want to, like, it's kind of hard to go, well, it's good or bad. But it's a good design, well made by We. So thanks again to the group that I mentioned at the beginning. And if you're here still, then consider subscribing to the channel as well and let me know as far as if I'm heading in the right direction with the channel also. And thank you again for your time.